In this video today, we have an absolute beauty. This is a Lionel Vision Niagara, finished off in the Empire State Express scheme, and we're going to check it out today on Bard Brothers Trains.
The Central called a 484 type wheel arrangement a Niagara. 484s, or Northerns as other roads call them, had been around for some time before Paul Kiefer began planning the ultimate dual-service locomotive. His plans were interrupted by World War II, and because of the advent of the diesel locomotive, only 27 were ever built. But the world has never seen their equal. And the final modification, the S2, challenged the economy and productivity of the diesel itself. Boiler pressure was 275 pounds. Special tandem side rods were introduced to absorb the tremendous thrust of some 6,600 horsepower. The boiler diameter was increased to 100 inches. To reduce weight, aluminum was introduced wherever possible, cab, smoke lifters, and so forth. Roller bearings were used throughout, and the reciprocating parts were so well balanced that two men could push both locomotive and the immense centipede tender. In terms of overall efficiency, the Niagara ranked #1 worldwide. Whether the records of utilization were calculated as miles per month, miles between shopping, or hours on the road per year, they were never equaled by any other locomotive. Although the Niagara was lighter than many of them, no other northern type engine ever equaled their power output. Taking water on the fly. The Niagara, with its long, smooth-surfaced boiler, epitomized the streamlined Henry Dreyfuss look that began with his redesign of the 20th Century Limited in 1938. The steam dome vanished. The stack shrunk almost out of sight, and the sand dome was squashed flat across the boiler. The uncluttered cylinder that resulted resembled the jacket of a high-speed rifle bullet. The reasons for all this, however, were anything but aesthetic. Other northern-type locomotives, the Norfolk and Western J-Class, Southern Pacific GS4s, Union Pacific 800s, and the Northern Pacific A4, were all more than 16 feet high. The Niagara was only 15 feet. The engine's contemporary look was the fortuitous result of the designer's scramble to squeeze a huge 100-inch diameter boiler, which was required for adequate steam production, into the extremely tight clearances of the eastern end of the New York Central system, and still leave room for 79-inch drivers.
Those clips you just saw were from a video called the New York Central Water Level Route. And we're going to go into a little more history about the Niagara in just a few seconds. The New York Central Niagaras came about because of the aging Hudsons and Mohawks on their water level route. The Niagaras were made to handle 6,000 plus horsepower while carrying trains at very high speeds. The Niagaras were built between 1945 and 1946. A total of 27 were ever made. The Niagaras consisted of 3 generations: the S1A, the S1B, and the S2A. The S2A was the most advanced Niagara, featuring Caprotti poppet valve gear, numbered 5500. The Niagara's design owes some of its success to the Union Pacific 844. It was built by the same company, Alco, but had some different design specifications, such as no steam dome, for example, and being only 15 feet high, whereas the Union Pacific 844, for example, is 16 feet high. Niagara S2A number 5500 was the first to go because of its experimental nature. Later, all the Niagaras would be retired, and sadly, every single Niagara was scrapped. Now let's take a look at this absolute beauty of a model. So up front, we have the dual beam headlight. We have the smokestack, the hole for the whistle steam smoke effect. We have a smoke box door that actually opens, and if I can get my finger in there, maybe, let me just grip the top of the locomotive. It opens like that, and it's just held in place with a magnet when you close it. It has a front dummy O-scale coupler, or scale coupler rather, a coupler cut lever, some hoses here, and I'm pretty sure this is a water preheater. I don't really remember off the top of my head. And if you look closely, you have your series of air pumps here and here to load smoke for the whistle steam smoke effect and for the smokestack. You have to put smoke fluid down the stack directly. You don't put smoke fluid down the whistle steam hole, but only the smokestack. The side of the Niagara is extremely detailed. You have your Baker valve gear here. You have a removable sand dome, which reveals all your controls for the locomotive regarding smoke and such. You have your safety valve steam up here, which I'll show you how to load smoke into that in a minute. To load smoke fluid into the safety valve steam effect, what you do is you remove the safety valves like so, and I'll show you the hole in just a second. Part of the mess, but there is the hole for the safety valve steam. So what you do is, I like to take a syringe here and feed smoke fluid down the stack like so. And when you're done, you make sure that the safety valves align with the magnet. If I can get my hand in there just fine. And it takes a little bit of settling to get it in there. And ta-da! Your safety valve steam is in. Your safety valve steam is triggered in one of 2 ways. One, if the locomotive is just sitting under speed step 25, the effect will trigger, and there's a timer for how long it lasts. Or second, if you want to trigger the effect automatically above speed step 25, you push aux 3 on your legacy remote. Hopefully you can see, but the interior is actually pretty well detailed, considering that there's not a lot of interior photos of the Niagara still in existence. But it is detailed regardless. One of the most ingenious features of this Vision Niagara is the force coupler effect. And how it works is the locomotive's drawbar is essentially on a scale. So what happens is, as the drawbar, I'll hold the locomotive, gets pulled out more, there's a scale to dictate the actual labor that's going to be applied to the locomotive. So the further that drawbar is pulled out, the harder of a chuff you're going to get from the locomotive, which is really cool and really ingenious. Now on the tender, the Niagara was designed to carry more coal than water. So how do you get more water in the locomotive without stopping so much? Well, there was a track pan underneath the locomotive that would carry water. And the New York Central had water scoops in these PT tenders. So what would happen is the train would run over these track pans with the scoop down, force water up into the tender. These little 90-degree bends here are blow-off valves to allow the excess water to vent without blowing up the tender. And that's what Lionel tried to recreate, albeit with a dual smoke unit. It's called the water scoop spray effect. So to activate the water scoop spray effect, you push the water fill button while the locomotive is moving. And what happens is a jet of smoke will come out of 3 of these portholes on each side. to mimic the amount of water being fed into the tender, which is really, really cool. To load smoke into the water scoop spray effect, you just flick this little case up here and it will fall out. It's held in with a magnet. And what you do is, and what I like to do, is take a syringe, a needle nose syringe, and feed it down the hole and inject my smoke fluid. Now, once you do that, I would highly recommend that you blow down that little hole so that all the bubbles pop and the lines so that you don't have any hiccups with the system. And when you're done, you just take this little chest and feed it back onto the locomotive like such. All done. There's really nothing too noteworthy on the back of the tender. These tenders were generally plain, so there's nothing really to see here, although you do have a backup light here, and you have your marker lights here and here. The rear water hatch does open to reveal the volume control for the tender and the water scoop spray effect on-off switch for smoke. And when you're done, just close it like that. One thing I'd like to point out with the Niagara is that it actually had a horn right here. And to activate the horn sound, you push aux 1 on your remote, blow the horn, to toggle back to whistle, push aux 1 again, and you get the whistle. All right, let's fire this locomotive up.
Yard office to the 6001. Over. 6001 answering. Go ahead. Over. Clear to pull down the house lead. Over. Roger that. 6001 out.
All right, let's check out some of the sounds. Here's the whistle. There's the safety valve steam going off on Q. Let's check out the horn now. And then back to whistle. Okay, let's check out the bell. Alright, one thing I should also mention, this locomotive has a speaker up in the locomotive as well, along with 2 speakers in the tender. So now you have stereo sounds. Hopefully the video can pick up on it for you. Let's listen to some of the crew talk sounds now.
6001 at Harmon. Station work complete and ready to head east. Over. Roger that. You are clear through my limits. Over. We're knocking down your home signal now. Out. 6001 at Harmon. Station work complete and ready to head east. Over. Roger that. You are cleared to depart east on signal indication. Over. Roger that. Clear on signal indication. Out.
All right, so I got a little train hooked up behind the locomotive, and I'm going to activate the wheel slip effect by putting the train brake on, releasing it, and going forward. Up there's the safety valve steam again. thank you all for watching. I'm not sure we can find these besides eBay or private sellers, but good luck finding them regardless, especially this gray one here. Anyway, I hope you all enjoyed the video. Take care, and I'll see you next time.